Hi, welcome back to my channel. Um, I'm going to do my best to get through this in one take, and I'm going to do my best to put as much information in this video about my experience as possible. Uh, as you can tell by the title, last year I had a battle with cancer, something that I never ever imagined I'd be talking about, but it happened. And I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. The main reason why I feel so comfortable with doing it right now, well, for one, I'm able to talk about it, and two, last night I had the most amazing experience ever. I went in front of a group of amazing women, strong, powerful women of God, and I shared my testimony with them. And it's the first time that I've spoken about it in public to a group of people. I have told individual people my story, but not a lot of people know. Not a lot of people knew what I was going through because I didn't want to share it with everyone, because it's one of those things. I was so frightened. I didn't know the outcome, and I wasn't in a good space mentally. So I'm ready to talk about it now. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. I used to work at Mac, and I mentioned this in my prior video, my experience. I think the video is called My Experience Working at Mac, something along those lines. And in that video I mentioned how I didn't have health care or sick time or anything, and I was part-time. So the end of 2018 I started experiencing this pain in my back on the right side, and I had no idea what it was, but I just chalked it up as, it'll go away, no big deal. The pain would come and go, and when it wasn't there, I didn't think about it. But each time I got the pain, I'd be like, I should go see a doctor, but I had no health care. And on top of that, I couldn't take off of work when I was sick because I had no sick time, and I have bills to pay. I have kids to take care of, 7 kids to take care of. So it got to a point, things were getting pretty tumultuous in my personal life, and working at Mac just did not benefit me or my family. So I kept looking for a job. I was looking for a way out, and I kept applying for job after job after job after job, and I could not get hired anywhere. And I'm like, Lord, what is going on? Why can't I find a job? I've never had a problem finding a job. So this goes on for a couple months. I couldn't find a job. So I actually saw this job opening at this school, and I used to do college admissions a long time ago. Matter of fact, after I got out of beauty school, that's one of the things that I did. I started working at colleges, and so I wanted to apply for this job because it had everything I was looking for, but I'm one of those people, I read reviews about everything, and the reviews about this school were so bad. And I was like, this can't be the job for me. So I kept ignoring it. So then someone I know got hired there, and they told me, oh no, don't worry about it. Yes, some of the reviews are kind of true, but I love it. It's awesome. So I applied for the job, and I got an offer right then and there, and I was like, okay, well, this is a sign. This is obviously where I'm supposed to be, but okay. So I'm at this job, and I hated it. I hated it so bad, but I toughed it out. The awesome thing is, within my first month, first of all, it paid really well, and second of all, my first month there is when I was eligible for health insurance. So thank goodness that time came, and I was able to enroll in healthcare. And that same week, it was a Thursday. I got up to get ready for work, and I felt horrible just out of nowhere. I just felt horrible. And I got up out the bed to get ready for work, and I just started sweating, and I just got very lethargic, and just to stand was exhausting. And I felt like, oh no, something is wrong. Something's really, really wrong. And I remember seeing my daughter sitting on the couch, and I opened my bedroom door so she could see me. I couldn't even speak because just to talk was draining. And I opened the door, and then I just laid on the floor. And then I hear her say, "Oh no, do we need to call 911?" And all I could do is I gave her a thumbs up because I couldn't do anything else. And she calls my oldest daughter, and she comes in and she sees me on the floor. They call 911, and an ambulance comes, and they're trying to get me to stand and by myself, but I couldn't. And I couldn't tell them that I can't stand, something is wrong. Each time I tried to stand, like, I started blacking out. And so they just kind of manhandled me and picked me up to get me on the stretcher. And that's when I just blacked out and didn't remember anything. Next thing I know, I'm in the back of an ambulance, and they're shaking me, yelling my name. And I wake up, and I really thought it was all a dream. It wasn't. So they just kept saying, "Stay with us, stay with us. We're going to get you help. We're going to find out what's wrong with you." And they're hooking me up to all these IVs. And I remember trying to stay awake during the ambulance ride, which is literally, the hospital's just 3 miles from my house. And one of my daughters was sitting in the front of the ambulance. And I just remember hearing the EMTs talk to each other and saying, "Oh, her daughter's in the front, her daughter's in the front." So I was like, oh my God, I have to keep it together for her. I get into the hospital, and I just hear a lot of talking. I can't keep my eyes open, but I can hear a lot of talking. And I hear they're just working on me, and I hear one person say to the other, "Be careful, there's blood everywhere." So I guess they're trying to do an IV, something didn't go right. And then there's blood. Sorry for the squeamish. But that plays a part coming up, so I did want to mention that. So I don't remember. I remember once they put the IVs in, and I was able to open my eyes, and the lady next to me, I guess she was a nurse, I don't know, she says, "Her eyes are open, her eyes are open. Do you know where you are?" I said, "Yes, I'm in the hospital." She says, "Okay." And she asked me something else, but I don't remember. And there's a big chunk that I don't remember from that first part in the hospital. Just a big chunk I don't remember. But at some point in time, I got a CT scan and a bunch of tests, and then it was quiet. And my daughter was sitting in the room with me, and I'm laying in the bed, and I really don't know how much time passed. I don't know how much time I've been there for, but this emergency room doctor comes in, and he says, "We have your test results back." And he looks at my daughter, he says, "Can you please leave the room?" And I cracked a little joke. I was like, "Oh, doc, it can't be that bad. Does she really have to leave?" And he's like, "Yeah, she does." So she leaves the room, and he pulls up a chair and sits next to me, which, by the way, is a really bad sign. And he says, "We did your CT scan. You have cancer." I'm like, "What?" He says, "Not only that, you have blood clots on your lungs." And I looked and I said, "I have 7 kids. You need to fix this." Like, no. And no. And he's like, "I'm so sorry." I said, "What do we do?" And he said, "Well, we're working on getting a room for you upstairs so we could admit you. But we can do one of 2 things. You need medication. You need medication to get rid of the blood clots, but the medication could harm you. It could kill you." He was telling me just some of the craziest things. And there's like, talking to him, there's like no way out. And he's like, "The tumor is on your liver and it's spread and it's this and it's that. It was the most traumatizing thing anyone could ever hear. So, of course, he tells me, I'm so sorry, pats me on the shoulder, and he leaves. My daughter comes in, and then she calls my oldest daughter on the phone, and we have her on speakerphone. I break the news to both of them, and they immediately start crying. But they stop. They're like, you got this. It's going to be okay. We're not listening to that. So we hang up the phone with my daughter. My other daughter, she sits back in the chair, and she's kind of sobbing, and I'm in the bed just in shock. My nurse, who's absolutely amazing, he comes in and he says, I'm going to get someone to come in and clean up the room for you. Because mind you, again, they did something to my arm. There was blood on me and on the floor, and I didn't have a hospital gown on. I had on my regular clothes. So I'm laying there in the bed, and this older woman comes in, very small Spanish lady comes in, and she comes straight to my bed, and she says, can I pray for you? I said, absolutely, please do. And she's over me, and she puts her hands over me, and I couldn't hear what she was saying because it was so faint, but the one thing I kept hearing was, Jesus, Jesus. And then she says, amen. And then she looks at me and she says, you're gonna be okay. And then she goes over to my daughter and she says, she's gonna be okay. She cleans up the room and she leaves. I was in the hospital for 6 days. So I was in on a Thursday. They ordered a biopsy on Friday. The doctors that did the biopsy were off on the weekends, so they couldn't do the biopsy until Monday, and I couldn't leave until Tuesday. Here's the thing. An emergency room doctor cannot give you results like the one gave me. I wasn't thinking about that at the time, and I was just freaking out. So I had an oncology doctor and I had an internal medicine doctor that took such good care of me all 6 days that I was there. And they told me, they're like, no, we don't even know if this is cancer. We don't know if it's benign. We don't know why he told you that. Like, please don't listen to that. And what is he talking about right now? All we see is just one tumor. Nothing is spread as far as we know. We don't know what he's talking about. So that gave me some hope, but the referral they gave me for the cancer hospital I had to go to was, I called them, scheduled the appointment, and they couldn't get me in for a week. So I spent almost a week in the hospital. I had another week. I had to sit down and wait for the actual test results from the biopsy, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, not knowing what was going on, not knowing anything. So I went in for my appointment to get the test results, and sure enough, they put me in this white room, cold white room, left me there for about 20 minutes, came in and said, you have cancer. It is called leiomyosarcoma, and we're going to send you to a gynecologist oncology doctor. I said, well, why is that? I was told that the tumor was on my liver. And they're like, nope, it's on your uterus. I'm like, that doesn't even sound right from what they told me in the hospital, but I'm freaking out, so I go along with it. It takes me another week to get in to see the gynecologist, only for her to come in after first I had to go get something called a PET scan, and that's basically where they inject you with radioactive dye, and it shows where the cancer is. So thank God she came in and told me it was just one tumor that they saw. It had not spread, and the only thing was, it wasn't on my uterus. She had no idea why they sent me there. I'm not even going to mention the name of this hospital because they don't even deserve it. So she told me, she said, well, I'm going to get in contact with the surgeon that I know, because it's in kind of a tricky place and we can't tell what it's attached to at this point, but there's a surgeon. that I want to get in touch with, and he can get the job done. Only thing is, he's on vacation for 5 days. I was so over this whole situation already. I called Moffitt. And it was the best decision I ever made. I called them. They had me in within, I want to say, 3 days. They had all of my medical records. They had everything. And just in case there was something they were worried that they didn't have, they sent me for more tests before I even got there for my initial appointment. And I met with a surgeon who told me that he can remove the tumor, and I probably wouldn't need chemo, but at Moffitt Cancer Center, they have something called tumor board, and it's where all the doctors, all the surgeons, all the oncology doctors, everyone gets together. They look at the patient's information, and then they all determine the best course of action for them. And so they figured, with my age and me being healthy and being young, they said, oh, you could probably, we want to do 3 rounds of chemo. And I said, well, hold on a minute. After I made another appointment, sat down, and went over all the options with the oncologist, but the chemo only worked, I think they said, with the type of cancer, it was 25% of the time, and it wouldn't even shrink the tumor all the way if it did work. And then there is the chance where the tumor could actually grow from the chemo. And it was a lot. And the nurses were amazing. They're like, take a few days to think about it. We still have to send you in for more tests before you can even start chemo. And the chemo would be 3 rounds, once every 3 weeks. So with the chemo they wanted me to do, I would be in the hospital for a week, because they do the chemo on day 1, but then they want to, because it's so strong, they want to keep you on an IV to flush it out of your system. Then I would be able to go home for a couple weeks, then back in the hospital for a week, and this would go on for 3 months. Again, I have kids, I have a job. There was no way that I could do that. But I told them, let me think about all my options. And I prayed on it. I literally prayed on it and asked the Lord, should I do chemo or not? And the interesting thing is, when you pray and you listen, God answers you. So during the time that I had to go in for tests, I met a lady who did my blood work, and as I was talking to her, she asked me, she's like, you look so healthy, what's going on? I was like, I actually feel really good. And so I told her the story of what happened and how they found the tumor. By the way, the tumor was 5 centimeters when they first found it. And I told her, what happened, and she shared her story with me, that she actually was a cancer survivor, and she went to a nurses conference, and while she was there, she just got this really bad pain in her leg that would not go away, and it was excruciating. So she went to the hospital, and she said they found a tumor the size of an orange on, if I'm not mistaken, it was her kidney. And they removed it, no chemo, no nothing, and she's been healthy ever since. So I just continued to pray on it, and I spoke to the nurse of the oncologist, because each doctor has their own nurse. And I told her, I said, I don't feel like chemo is the way that I want to go. And she said, okay. And she spoke to the oncologist, and then she called me back. She said, we're supportive of your decision, so don't feel bad about this. You have the right to make the decision you want to, and we support you in this. So I said, okay. Now, because I had originally went to the hospital and had blood clots on my lungs, I was told I had to be on the medication, the blood thinners, for 3 months. So in my mind, I had at least, that by now, like a month had gone by. So in my mind, I have at least 2 months before surgery. And in those 2 months, like, I'm taking my kids out. We're going to go to Disney. We're going to do all this stuff. Yeah, no. I made my decision on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, they called me at work, and I let it go to voicemail. I checked my message. saying, oh, Samantha calls back. We had 3 appointments that you need to go in for before surgery. I'm like, before surgery? What is she talking about? And I called and I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, we need you to go in for this, this, and this for your surgery on Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, so you're saying my surgery is next Wednesday? They're like, yeah, we got to get it out. Y'all, I was freaking out. Like, it all happened so fast. So literally, that was Wednesday. Thursday, I had 2 appointments for different tests that I had to get done. Friday, I had another test I had to do that morning, and then I had to meet for pre-op with the doctor, with the surgeon, Friday afternoon. I literally didn't have time to think about anything. So I sit down and I talk to the surgeon on Friday, and I'm just like, I'm really shocked that all this is going so fast. And he's like, we got to get it out. So he's like, we go over everything for surgery, all the stuff that I do. I had to take antibiotics and all of this stuff before surgery. I had to stop the blood thinners at a certain amount of days before the surgery, like 2 days before surgery. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And I'm not even including all the stuff that I had to do because this video would be forever. But I was scared. I was so scared. And he told me, he's like, well, there's something that I need to tell you. I'm like, yeah. He's like, the tumor, because at this point we determined the good news was the tumor was not attached to any main organs. The tumor was attached to what's called the vena cava, which is the main artery where blood flows through your body. It was attached to that. And that is what caused the blood clots on my lungs, because the vena cava had become clotted and the blood flow was not going as fast because this is the vena cava. The tumor was pushing against it and made it clot. But then he tells me, it looks like the tumor might have attached itself to your kidney, so I may have to remove your kidney while I'm in there. I'm sorry, what? A perfectly good kidney? And he's like, I won't know until I get in there and start the surgery. So I'm just telling you, it's a good chance that I have to take it with the tumor and the vena cava. Now, God is amazing. And the way he made our bodies is amazing, because at this point, my body had started rerouting my blood flow through the major arteries in my legs. So my blood flows, it started flowing differently because the vena cava was blocked and the blood flow couldn't get through there anymore. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, you know what? I've been through so much in all this time, because this happened. I went in the hospital April 11th. And at this point now, it's like June 14th or 15th, because my surgery was June 19th. So for the past 2 months or so, I had already been through so much, and I had just prayed my way through the whole thing. Because at first, I was freaking myself out so bad. Sorry for the train. I feel like every time I record, the train goes by. So I had been freaking myself out so bad. I was making myself sick. It was ridiculous. And I realized it was all mental. And I had to remember that, like, I need to be stronger mentally so I can get through this. And so I just prayed on it. Like, I just asked the Lord, please don't let them take my kidney. Get me through surgery. Everything that I was fearful of, I just kept praying about. And mistake number 1 that I made, I started looking up different groups of people that had cancer, because I'm like, somebody out there has to know how I feel. Because no one around me knew how I felt, and I only told a few people what was going on, and the people that I told, like, they just looked at me with such sadness, and I couldn't deal with the looks anymore. I called my younger sister and I broke the news to her, and she couldn't stop crying. She cried hysterically, and I was like, I'm not telling anyone anymore, because I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna show them I'm gonna get through this. And because the more I told people, and their sadness, their tears, and their fear was rubbing off on me, and it was making me even doubt. And I was like, this is between me and God. So I started like joining these forums through the first hospital that I went to, the mistake hospital. Well, let me take that back, because nothing is a mistake, but it wasn't anyway. I had joined this forum, and people were sad and they were afraid. So I was like, oh, this was a bad decision, because the people that were going through what I was going through, they were sad and afraid. And there was no comfort there. It was just everyone being sad and afraid together, if that makes sense. So I realized I need to stay off Google, stop reaching out to people in similar situations, because they're afraid too, and I need to focus on God, and I need to get my mind right. And that's what I did. So I went in for my surgery on June 19th. Surgery was 4.5 hours long. And when I came to, my husband came in and he said, the doctor wanted me to tell you, the first thing he wanted me to tell you is you still have your kidney and you did awesome in surgery. And I felt so good. There is only one issue that happened in surgery, so they had to keep me in ICU for the night, but everything was fine. And I thought that was going to be the end of it, but while I was in the hospital, I had to be there for 6 days while they could keep an eye on me and monitor me, because it was a pretty major surgery. And sitting in there, I started getting depressed. And I was feeling so bad that I was depressed. Like, I was upset with myself, because here I just had this tumor removed. Once they removed it and they were able to really measure it and look at it, it ended up being 7 centimeters, so bigger than an egg. And I was upset with myself. I was like, why am I sad? See, the thing is, I had never been through anything like this, and coming out of surgery, I ended up having to meet with a physical therapist for the first few days, because I didn't realize, first of all, the incision is pretty large. Matter of fact, I'll show you. So the incision is large, and I didn't realize, first of all, I didn't realize how large it was going to be. I did ask, but in my mind I'm like, no. But we use our stomach muscles more than I realized. So I needed help walking. I needed help to the bathroom. I couldn't shower by myself. I needed help doing everything. I couldn't even lay in the bed. Like, even in the hospital bed, I had to keep it reclined, so that way I wasn't in pain. And well, thank God they took such good care of me, because I wasn't in a whole lot of pain. Like, I feel like the pain didn't kick in until I got home. But yeah, I couldn't walk. And because the tumor ended up, it was pushing against a nerve in my spine, I lost the feeling in my upper right thigh, so I have no feeling there. And I had no feeling in my back right hip, but that came back after a few days. So I'm praying that the feeling comes back in my thigh. And then I had issues like with my legs, like it hurt really bad to walk. I had sharp shooting pains going down both my legs, but my right leg was the worst. So when I got home, I couldn't sleep in my bed. I had to sleep in my recliner in the living room for, I think, 2 weeks. And the pain medication I was on, it either knocks you out or it keeps you up. I'm the person where it keeps you up. So I was up every night till 4 in the morning. And so with not being able to walk, not being able to take care of myself, and not being able to sleep in my bed and staying up all night, the depression just kept getting worse and worse. I would shower and I would see this massive scar, and it looked really bad when I first got it done because they had like this protective film over it, and it just made it look really scary. And then I had a drain. So if you've seen anyone that's had like a tummy tuck or any type of surgery, there's a drain that drains the surgical fluid, and I was still draining a lot of fluid when it was time for me to leave the hospital, so they had me go home with the drain. So I had that trailing alongside of me for I think a week. A week after I got home, so I had that for a total of 2 weeks, and it just wasn't natural, and it didn't feel right. So there's just a lot of things. I just kept falling into this deep, deep, dark depression, and it was bad. It was really bad. Like, bad. No one tells you the mental state that you're in once you go through something like that. And here in Florida, I don't have friends or family. And so, I have people that I know, but there was no one to come to the house to help me. My kids, thank goodness, like 2 of my daughters toughed it out and they slept on the couch with me for like the first week. And then I was like, you guys you don't have to do this anymore. So one night while I was up wide awake, I didn't leave the TV on because in the living room, because I didn't want to wake anyone in the house up. So I would keep my earbuds and my iPad on my lap, on the couch, on the recliner. And I'm skimming through YouTube. And this church sermon pops up. And that was the night that I discovered Transformation Church and Pastor Mike Todd. And not only is he a pastor that preaches the word, but he did it in such a way, it was like the first time I laughed in a really long time. And it felt good. So I got to thinking about something. If I'm going through this situation and I feel so alone, who else feels like this? So, and I definitely had to stay off of social media, like no Facebook, no Instagram, because that just makes things a whole lot worse. So what I did was I wanted to reach out. I wanted to let people know what I was going through, because I hadn't even told family members. I still have family members that don't know. And I wanted to use social media as something positive. So as a makeup artist, majority of my pictures are of me with makeup on. So I took a picture of me all done up that I took, because before surgery, I needed to get my mind off of what was going on. So I found something to look forward to, and I found something that would bring me joy, and it was a makeup palette from Milk Cosmetics. Actually, their Smoke Sessions palette. I don't smoke, but the palette was beautiful, and it gave me once I saw that they had relaunched it, I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m. Eastern time, when it launched at midnight their time, and it was just brought me joy. It gave me something to think about other than cancer, other than craziness. And so I sat down, did a makeup look with it, and I took a picture of me in my face all dolled up, and then sitting there in the recliner one morning, I took a picture of me with my makeup on and a picture of me in the hospital bed right when I woke up from surgery, tubes and everything coming out of me. And I posted something along the lines of, no one shows their truth on social media, and you always think that everyone's life is better than yours, and it's not always the case. And so I shared my experience of what basically Instagram versus reality is what I showed. And I was transparent and I put my feelings out there. And people start reaching out and DMing me, telling me how much I helped them. And I wanted more of that because it just really showed me of how lonely people can be and how not everyone has someone. And I just wanted people to know you're really not alone. So just seeing the response, it gave me kind of like the boost that I needed to continue to be on that path of healing. The best advice that I can give you when you're going through something traumatic is, first of all, find what brings you joy. And I know it may seem silly that during the first part of my ordeal before the surgery, the thing that brought me joy was makeup, but makeup truly makes me happy. It's therapeutic for me. It's art. So find what brings you joy. Second of all, find a positive support system. If you don't have a support system, then talk to, like, if it's a medical thing, talk to the doctors, because there were ways for me to have access to people that knew what I was going through. It's an organization where people that are cancer survivors are trained to be companions or for people that are going through it. So it's not talking to someone that is upset and has it and doesn't know what to do. It's people that have already had it, already been through it, and so now they're your companion to talk to and get you through it. And the other thing is to journal. Oh my goodness, I'm already someone that journals all the time, so that was nothing new to me, but I journaled so much more. And the other thing I would say is visualize yourself on the other side of whatever struggle you're dealing with, if that makes sense. So the whole time that I was dealing with it, I envisioned myself feeling better and thought about the things that I would do once I got better. And that helped a whole lot. And above all else, I prayed. I prayed, and I stayed away from watching anything negative, no scary movies, which I don't really do anyway, but no crime shows, nothing that was negative or scary or anything, only positive and uplifting things. And did I mention pray? I just want to let everyone know, whatever it is that you're going through, better days are ahead. Whatever it is, no matter how dark it looks, no matter how bad it looks, you need to just hang on a little bit more, because it's going to get better. No matter what your situation is, no matter if it's you lost friends, like through this situation, people that I thought were my friends, they bailed like quick, so at hard times you see who's there for you and who's not. In difficult times you see how strong you really are. And that's what I did. I've been through so much. I've been through abusive relationships. I was abused growing up. I was kicked out the house at 15. I have 7 kids. I've been through hell and back many times. But because of faith in God and not giving up on myself when everyone else did, it kept me going. So no matter what it is that you're going through, you're going to be okay. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. And please share this video with anyone that you know that may be going through something. Because believe me, when I couldn't even walk down the street I couldn't even make it 2 houses down. But now, like, no, I took for granted being able to walk. And now I walk 1 to 3 miles 4 to 5 times a week. So if I can do it, you can do it. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it helps. Take care of you.